Hello, I'm Joshua Farnsworth and welcome to my traditional woodworking school. One of our instructors, Bill Anderson, in this upcoming video is going to share with you a bit about hand tools that he uses for making traditional wooden hand planes. So sit back, relax, and enjoy it, and I hope you go out and I hope you build a traditional 18th century hand plane.
So in order to make this plane, we need to make a few simple gauges and templates that will speed our work along. One thing to make is a template for the handle that we can use to lay out the outside shape and also to lay out how we're going to cut the inside part of the handle like that. Another thing is we need a gauge to lay out the angle of the bed and the angle of the breast, and we need to be able to gauge that as we're going along with a little device like this, which will allow us to check the inside architecture with the layout lines on the outside of the plane as we're coming along like that. So and then a little gauge to make sure that we're getting the angle of our abutment, 10 degrees in this case, right on the money. And the last little thing here is I have a couple mock irons that I use to help verify that our bed is going to be flat as we shape it without having to use the iron for all these purposes like that. And very lastly, I make a little section that we can clamp between the vices to keep the vise from racking while we have the plane clamped in the vise here. Sort of a vise racking, anti-racking device. So most of the tools we're going to be using to make this plane are common joinery and layout tools that you might encounter in the shop, but there are some specialty tools that are specific to plane makers. And one set are tools called floats. And I have here three different kinds of floats. A bed float, which is used to flatten out either the bed or the breast of the plane. Cheek floats, which are meant to be used either on the push or pull stroke for the sides of the cheeks of the abutments. And then edge floats, which are used to shape the angle of the mortise in the abutment there. Right now those are just push floats. Lastly, we have something called a scraper chisel. I read an article written back in the 1800s about plane making, and they referenced a tool that they called a scraper chisel. And based on that, I designed this tool, which is a very heavy tool, has a very blunt edge here. It's been hardened but not tempered, so it's very, very hard and very sharp right here, a blunt angle by 80 degrees. And I use that to scrape the bed and get it to be glass smooth. So those are the tools specific for the plane making operation. So a number of the tools that we're going to use to make this plane are common layout and bench work type tools. I've laid out a collection of tools here, but really a lot of different kinds of tools will do the same job. So one of the first things we're going to want to do is use a couple planes to smooth out the stock. We'll use a chisel a heavy registered chisel, square on the edges here, for chopping out a lot of the work there. We'll use egg beater brace here egg beater drill to cut out the mouth, for example. We might use a brace like this with center point bits like these to cut the mortises for the strike button, for the handle, and so on and so forth. Marking gauge, and one or the other of these saws here. Dividers to lay out a center line down the length of the plane there so we can keep everything perfectly symmetrical. A marking knife, we'll need that to lay out a lot of lot of our work here. Eventually we'll use a pair of winding sticks and a straight edge to verify that our sole of our plane is flat and it's without twist. These are very traditional tools. Squares, very commonly used tool in this case. And we might also use something called mutton tallow, which will help lubricate our planes, lubricate our saws, and keep things moving smoothly as we work along. We'll also use a variety of chisels here for cutting the eyes of in the throat, for cutting some decorative features here, a gouge here. Mortise chisels for starting to cut out the mouth. And lastly, we'll be using a grinder that we can use to grind the bevel on our iron here and keep all of our chisels sharp as we do this chopping and so on and so forth. Hand grinders are quite useful and just as useful as a powered grinder, but a whole lot cheaper to buy. And that's about it.
If you're interested in learning traditional woodworking, come take a class at our school in Earlysville, Virginia. You can also visit our website at woodandshop.com, where you'll find a bunch of free woodworking lessons, workshop tours, and our very popular tool buying guides. And make sure you subscribe to our free newsletter to get our latest articles and videos. Enjoy!